I can see that people are joining us right now, so we will just give them another minute to settle down. There is a lot of familiar faces. Really glad that all of you managed to come. Okay. Well, I have my mug, I have my candy here, so I think that we can start.
Cool. Nothing without candy.
From my personal experience, a day without candy is a day ruined. So, good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, everyone. Welcome to Agrimo's webinar on AI, drone analytics, and variable rate drone spraying in agriculture. I'm Jovan. I will be your host for today, and I'm thrilled to be joined by these two amazing guest experts who are also Agrimo resellers. So we have here Jim from D1 Store and Taylor from Agri Spray Drones. Welcome, guys. So Jim and Taylor, how are you both doing today?
Well, I'm doing great today. We just got through a storm here in Missouri, so luckily the power is still on.
Okay, that is fortunate for us. Hey, Jim, how are you?
I'm doing very well. Actually in the U.S. at the moment, and we had a little bit of snow today, so I'm ready for more sunshine.
Yeah, okay, but
Yeah.
could you tell us, since you said I'm at the moment in the United States, give us a little bit of your background, and of course, Taylor, I would like to hear you introducing yourself also to our audience.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in the U.S., but I now live in Australia and work for D1. We're a DJI drone distributor. We have 7 brick and mortar consumer stores across Australia, and we do enterprise and ag sales out of Melbourne, Australia. So we serve Australia and New Zealand. I'm head of agriculture there, so I primarily work with agriculture customers. Most of my background is in agriculture, in fruit, flower, vegetable and cannabis production in Colorado. But I now live in Australia and work with D1 there.
Sounds amazing. By the way, we have to emphasize that D1 is actually an exclusive distributor for Agrimo in Australia, right?
Yes, sir.
Great. Taylor, please, the stage is yours. Give us a little bit about yourself.
Thanks. Yeah, so I'm Taylor Moreland. I'm the owner of Agri Spray Drones, born and raised in Missouri here in the U.S. And grew up on a dairy farm, worked in agriculture after college in the seed business. And that's what kind of got me into spray drones. So agriculture has always been a very big part of my life, finding the struggles, finding the problems in ag for growers and how to solve those is always what I've been passionate about. And thankfully, DJI and Agrimo are 2 really good tools to do just that.
Thanks for the praise. That's why I said that both of you are amazing experts. But what we see here is that we actually have a true international panel. We are covering multiple time zones, multiple continents. But that's the beauty of technology. I mean, it brings us all together no matter where we are. So speaking of technology, before we dive into our first topic, which is Agrimo AI drone analytics in agriculture, let's just go through some housekeeping rules just to make sure that we are all on the same page. So audience is muted, but guys, you can use your chat box and question box in the bottom right corner. Webinar is going to last approximately 45 minutes, maybe a little bit longer, but as long as it is interesting, we will keep on going and until you run out of questions. Like I said, you can type any question. If we don't manage to answer any of those, we will make sure to email you back the answers in the following days. Obviously, we will have a Q&A session at the end. And you don't have to take any notes because you will receive a recording link via email immediately after the webinar. So, a little bit of introduction about Agrimo. So, we are an AI-based precision agriculture software for automated analysis of drone imagery for the purposes of agriculture. We started back in the end of 2015, 2016, so we are not a yesterday company. And we had a mission and a commitment to basically improve how agricultural professionals are gaining the insights into their crops, whether those are some health-related information or stand counts. Today, Agrimo is really fortunate to have a customer base in more than 100 countries, including, of course, Australia and the United States. And our customers are ranging from different profiles, from small to enterprise growers, machinery producers, drone producers. Obviously, DJI connected us with Taylor and Jim as one of their strategic partners, but also agrochemical and seed producers. All of these guys are more or less into what Agrimo is doing and our AI-based analytics. But the question is why? And we can see probably the answer somewhere into diving a little bit deeper into traditional approach, how things are done in agriculture. So we will constantly have the same questions that are simply requiring some answers, but providing those answers is, as you can see, not so beneficial for the modern agriculture. Things are getting labor intensive, very error prone, and obviously unscalable, which is not so good since society is requiring more and more food, yet agriculture is less and less productive. So this is where we are committed ourselves to improving things by providing our artificial intelligence technology worldwide. So a part of our technology is actually oriented towards crop production or crop production fields. And recently, we actually made a really nice product, which you can obviously obtain through our resellers or directly through us, depending on the market. But what we did is we combined a set of tools, a set of analysis to provide a seasonal monitoring or seasonal insights into crop production fields. As you can see on the icons on your screen, some of those, let's say, benefits of this tool or this product that we have is that this tool supports both RGB and multispectral imagery, first and foremost. The good thing is that even though we are DJI's partner, Agrimo is hardware agnostic, so don't worry if you, for instance, have a fixed wing drone, you can easily utilize that. A good thing since this year, stitching is also available within Agrimo. So if that is something that you need, you can have basically a turnkey solution because you can have everything in one spot. The one thing that basically differentiates Agrimo from other solutions is that we are analyzing every square meter. So Agrimo is analyzing every square meter. We are not doing some estimates based on sampling. In addition to that, we are a John Deere Operation Center connected company. We also have a really cool feature if you're working with clients to have a client view mode only. We have a corn yield calculator, meaning that we can estimate yield, let's say a month before the harvest. We have some tools for zone management, for biomass, but something that has emerged lately as a really a huge competitive advantage and something that customers and agricultural professionals are looking for is that we can create variable rate application maps. So whether it is for machinery or if it is for a drone, in this case for DJI Agris, you will have both. Meaning that we take just a couple of clicks, it will be easy for you to create a variable rate application map for machinery and for a drone that is ready to be used. Another thing that is not so, let's say, marketed or spread, but equally needed is variable rate seeding, meaning that Agrimo's stem count technology also supports variable rate seeding. So you don't have to worry if you have different zones in the field and you're using different rates. We can solve that. I want to use this opportunity and this evening also to make a small announcement. As you can see, we actually have one part here in red, and that is that we will have a chat integrated, and I actually want to use use this opportunity to announce something that is coming in 3 weeks, which is super cool, and that is that we will have a digital consultant which will be powered by ChatGPT. This means that we will basically implement something that can be a game-changing technology that will revolutionize basically the way we approach agriculture. Simply said, this integration is going to allow very, very strong AI technology on the other side, powered by GPT, to basically analyze the different layers of information that we have been collecting by mapping and analyzing fields. And I actually have to ask you, Taylor, you mentioned to me at some point that this is cool because people are getting more and more interested into drone technology, yet they don't have so much knowledge about agriculture. You said this is going to be good for them. Can you just, give everybody an explanation about that?
Right. So whenever we're selling multispectral drones, DJI does a very good job doing a lot of marketing and, kind of showing that workflow from multispectral to, they use Terra and then into the sprayer drone. And so we get calls sometimes from folks who know absolutely nothing about agriculture. And they say, well, I want to start a crop scouting business using multispectral drone. And so if I get a chance to talk to them, I say, well, what do you know about multispectral and what do you know about agriculture? And they say, well, nothing. I just think it'd be really good business. I could just tell farmers how to manage their fields, how to manage their farms. And I thought that's probably not a good idea if you don't understand agronomy, if you don't understand agriculture. And so that's where I think something like this, especially if you are yourself, wanting to get into this business, providing recommendations, providing some variable rate maps and things like that. A tool like this, a tool like Agrimo with the AI precision analysis behind it, and then integrating the chat into it will help not only your customer understand it, but also you as a service provider understand it as well.
Yeah, I couldn't actually agree more. As we are seeing that more and more people are starting like a drone service business, and then they're entering the agricultural part. But even for a farmer or for a grower, it will be easy simply because the adoption of AI analytics is going to be even more simplified, yet more actionable. So we are remaining committed to innovations, and this is something that you will be able to see, I think, in the next 3, maybe 4 weeks. But until then, since we are here to focus more on, let's say, drone spraying maps, etc., I think this is a good moment just to explain to people what is the protocol that is basically being used and how we are using it. So obviously, the whole process starts with mapping. drone flight, and then stitching, which obviously now is available within Agrimo. Once we have those converted into a 2D map or orthomosaic or a geotipe, however you want to call it, then we will be able in just a couple of clicks to request an AI analysis. Once our system is done processing the data, you will receive an AI report, the results, and based on those results, we will be able to create a variable rate application spraying map. Again, I would like to emphasize that basically we have the opportunity to create a map for both ground machinery and also for the Agri drone. Once there is at our premises on our computer, we will be able to upload it to Agris and then proceed to drone flight and precision spraying. In a couple of minutes, we will actually show you how simple the whole process is, and that really there is no need for some particularly specialized knowledge because everything can be done with just a couple of clicks. Agrimo is committed to have everything made quite user-friendly, but we will get to that part. But I would like to just go once again, since when we created this hypothesis about the whole technology, we actually sat with DJI and said, hey, let's find the use case, and this was actually the use case where we tested it, and that was volunteer corn in soybeans. So we did this test in Iowa, in the United States, end of last year. And you can see actually one stock of volunteer corn in soybeans. So you can actually see the image, and the point is that this is really, really difficult to be noticed even on foot. We managed to successfully identify volunteer corn by using, at that moment, a multispectral drone from DJI that was available, which was Phantom 4 multispectral, even though Mavic 3 multispectral is, I think, far better or even better. And based on the map and Agrimo analysis, we managed to create a spot spraying map for this field. But to go to these figures that you can see on your screen, two main aspects that I would like to emphasize. First is that not only that with a spraying drone we used less water, but we used less herbicide. As you can see, simply we sprayed where we had to. The farmer was usually spraying everything because, like I said, it was really hard to spot these weeds and then treat them. The another thing which was quite beneficial and surprising for the farmer was that there was no yield loss from driving through the field, because as you can see from the image, this is the moment where the rows of soybean already started to close. Therefore, if we went with a machinery, there would be some loss due to the tracks of a tractor. Ultimately, the farmer increased their profits by 68%. Simply, as you can see, profit from spraying the whole field, flat spraying, versus what we offered was $26 versus $43 per acre. But the best part is that when you position Agrimo into a middle, and as we said, you have your mapping drone, then you have Agrimo, and you have some results and analytics, Now you also can basically give your spraying drone the brain based on those analytics, because we can create a variable rate application or variable rate spraying map. Simply what we are seeing right now is we are seeing that two components of remote sensing and application of drones in agriculture are merging around platform or piece of software such as Agrimo. And Taylor, I remember that when we had our conversation a couple of days ago, you said that at some point there was more hype, more requests to buy spraying drones, not mapping drones, and so on. So maybe this is a good moment where you could enlighten us from your experience as one of the drone dealers in the United States.
Sure. Well, I specifically remember it was about 2014 or so whenever the Phantom 4 came out. And the Phantom 4 was a really cool drone. It was affordable. It had a really good camera on it, really good range. You could see, HD image transmission. And there was a ton of companies that popped up selling these drones to farmers, telling farmers that if you buy one of these drones, that will help you be more efficient. It will help you, tell you where you need to go spray. It will tell you what your stand count is. It will tell you where the holes are at in the field. It will tell you all sorts of stuff. And the problem is that's not true, because the drone itself is just a drone. A drone itself is just a way to collect the images. And it, so if you're using a drone to, kind of help with scouting, boots on the ground, that's okay. But telling someone that a scouting drone will do everything for them is not actually factual. And so what a lot of farmers here in the US were kind of upset about was the promise of drones wasn't really there. And until, fortunately, software like, or a tool like Agrimo does make that promise a reality. Now, when we think about sprayer drones, what's the value in a sprayer drone? Well, the value in a sprayer drone is very tangible. Farmers are very used to actually applying products, crop protection products, with their own sprayers, their own, John Deere or Case or whatever it might be sprayers. And so they understand that. They understand the value of some of these crop protection products, like fungicide, for instance, and having a drone that can do that without running over the crops, or be able to do that in wet fields or in tall crops. That's very tangible to farmers. And so we saw a huge uptake in the adoption rate for sprayer drones because of that reason.
But we are here to change that. Since we started a really good topic, and I called you because you are very familiar with what's been going on the market. Maybe this is a good time actually to introduce what are you doing, and actually how big Agri spray drones is, and some of your let's say presence on the market.
Yeah, thanks. So in 2020, we founded Agri Spray Drones, and back then it was really just kind of me and one of the guys in my seed business that was helping me out. And we used a full year of testing. The theory was, I guess the reason we started it, I was tired of hiring aerial application for my seed customers for fungicide, and then the application company would be a week late getting there, or a few days late getting there. They wouldn't do some fields because they said it was too far away, something along those lines. And so I thought, okay, there's a supply and demand gap in the fungicide application market in row crops and corn specifically. How do we bridge that gap? Well, it's either farmers do it themselves, but no farmer can afford a helicopter, an airplane, and then outfit it with a spraying equipment. Or we have localized service, but the localized crop dusting service providers, they had to travel an entire state or multiple states to generate revenue enough for their business. So drones seem to be the perfect solution, but nobody was really running them in the Midwest in 2020 on a large scale. So we tested it in 2020, in 2021 began sales. And we quickly realized that these drones were doing more than just solve a supply demand gap. They were actually bringing opportunities to rural parts of America. We have countless stories of folks who quit their jobs return back to the family farm that could not sustain another income, but now they have a sprayer drone and they're able to provide their own income through that business, through custom application, through the spraying drone. So it's really cool to see that, and that's what our mission statement is now, is to empower rural America with new opportunities. And so, yeah, we've seen tremendous growth. So since 21 January, we've sold over 800 spray drones between the T20, 30, and the 40.
Yeah, but since you mentioned it a couple of years ago, and that was actually a huge problem because a lot of farmers got, let's say, burned by buying something that was not giving them what they were expecting. Are you seeing any change in trends, at least when we are talking about, let's say, like newest models of multispectral or RGB drones, compared to the trend that we are seeing with spraying drones and spraying application in the US?
Yeah, so trends as far as we're talking about camera drones, is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
So it's not, camera drones have not been, I would say more farmers have camera drones than they do sprayer drones, but those who have those camera drones are not using them to their full value, I don't think. They might use them if they can see a problem from the road. Hey, I think I might have a hole out in the middle of the field, or I think I might have streaking or something like that. They're taking the drone up, looking real quick at the monitor of the screen, and that's about the extent of how they use that. They don't really go any further than that. They're not really collecting any data, nothing like that. We do see younger generations that, the next generation on the farm that are using some of these drones because they understand some of how to actually collect the data and use the data. And so I think with tools like Agrimo and tools like DJI's Mavic 3 multispectral, that's where we're going to see a really tremendous uptake in the use of mapping drones on the farm. So yeah, when we talk about Agrimo, the reason that I like Agrimo as a tool is because it's kind of the missing link. There are other softwares out there that can take drone imagery, that can stitch it, that then you can create some analysis off of. But Agrimo takes it a step further with, you're not actually doing that analysis on your own computer. Agrimo is doing that for you, which means you can use a much more powerful tool to process that data. And it's a bit more hands-off as well, because if you spend all day out in the field flying, one field after another, you probably don't want to spend all night or all the next day processing imagery and running analysis and tweaking it. Agrimo does bring that part off of your plate. Actually gives you a better report, potentially in any ways, depending on the kind of data that you're feeding it. And it's all about providing answers, so it's about taking the tools you already have, the tools you're going to get, like a drone, running it through Agrimo. And then if you have variable rate equipment, or if you have a sprayer drone, that's where you can actually take that data, take that report, and then make it valuable by doing the actual application in the field.
Since you just mentioned the spraying drones, and so how are things changing now that we have variable rate application? I mean, what are you seeing in terms of some practical use cases? What's been happening like since 2020 when you decided, hey, I want to go into this business, and since you are like very, very deep in this part of let's say a drone application?
Yeah, so nobody is doing variable rate application with spray drones right now. Not in the US anyways. I mean, I shouldn't say nobody. There's tiny fraction of folks who have sprayer drones are doing variable rate application. They are focused on their primary market, which is going to be whole field application, fungicide, insecticide, possibly herbicide, not doing any fertilizer, and really herbicide is pretty limited. And they're limited, herbicide and fertilizer are limited uses for spray drones because of fertilizer is just too many pounds. If you're putting out let's say 100 pounds of nitrogen, that's going to be 200 plus pounds of urea. That's just too much to do with the drone. And then other products, P and K, are going to be too much to do with the drone. Then we're looking at herbicide. Blanketing herbicide across the field with a drone is not the best approach from multiple factors. Here in the U.S., there's labeling requirements, or labeling issues. You might have to do that at 5 gallons per acre or 10 gallons per acre from the air from a drone, which is a bit preventative. So when we look at spot application, we're going to see herbicide be the primary use for that, and really open up if those who already have sprayer drones, they're working a lot there in July and August, maybe June, doing fungicide, insecticide application. But if you can incorporate some spot application, that post application of herbicide as a service through spot spraying, by saving, if you're the farmer yourself, saving yourself money on application on herbicide, and then it's all about cutting back from a sustainability perspective too. So you see on the chart here, this is just a chart that I pulled showing glyphosate. This is actually the raw material cost right here. But you can see there in 20 or 21, huge spike in the cost of glyphosate, and it's come down a bit. But this is across the board. I mean, all ag chemical has shot up in price, and so if we can cut back the use by what we saw earlier, 60%, that would be tremendous. And, drones have the ability to do that. And then when we think about fertilizer, so I don't know if you have the other picture on here, Johan. No. Okay. When we think about fertilizer, across a lot of parts of the Midwest anyways, whenever we get heavy rains through the spring and early summer, we're going to have nitrogen loss. Nitrogen is losable through the soil. Nitrogen is losable through denitrification. So rain events are going to exacerbate that. And a lot of times you don't see the nitrogen uptake, or you don't see the nitrogen loss until that corn plant is into VT, or almost VT, so it's tall. And so getting over with the ground rig is almost impossible. Hiring an aerial applicator, they're going to want to do the entire field whenever we know the entire field does not need applied. You need 30% of the field done or 40% of the field done with putting on another 40 pounds of nitrogen. And so this is where drones, spreader drones with the spreader tank on the T40, you can hold about 100 pounds of product in there. So if you can target that to the areas that just need it and do that autonomously, Agrimo has the capability to do that. Or if you can vary the rate, as you fly across the field, turn on, shut off, slow down, speed up, that kind of thing. Then we're going to see, we'll be able to use less nitrogen, put it where it needs to go, and put it there at the right time as well, because we do know that, modern corn hybrids are utilizing about 40% of their total nitrogen needs after tassel. And so if you can wait until tassel time to get some of that nitrogen on that plant, then that's going to be a game changer in terms of nitrogen use efficiency.
That's actually amazing, because I was expecting some real life use cases from you, and you actually delivered more than what we hoped for. So thank you for that. Yeah, I will actually now show you how the whole process is quite simplified. So that everything that we talked about is more than easy to understand and easy to use. So actually, we prepared a video about it, but I will narrate it. I have to thank my colleague Nicola, who assisted with this. So I'm going to guide you just through the steps in next 6-7 minutes, so you can see how the whole process looks like. So once we have mapped and stitched and obviously positioned our map onto Agrimo, we have to find the field and that particular map that we want to analyze. Once we are at that drone map, In order to continue the process, we have to annotate either the whole field or parts of the field that we want to process with Agrimo AI. It is done simply by annotating, just giving it some name and maybe instructions, and it's done. Just a couple of clicks. In order to proceed, we have to assign or to, let's say, decide what we want to analyze by selecting the annotation or multiple annotations, and then to choose the appropriate analysis which is available in Agrimo. We will focus for now on weed analysis and plant vigor for herbicide application and for fertilizer application. This is the moment where we are filling out just the name and some basic information, so it stays recorded on the report, and just click Run Analysis. So this is how simple it is to request a weed analysis. Once the system is done, we will receive a report and some analytics. As you can see, we are going to enter to access that report. And what we are seeing right now is distribution of weeds across the field, but also analytics that are showing us the weed pressure. The variable rate application map or spraying map is created with a spraying tool that we have available for you. Again, we have to input just some of the basic required information, such as what kind of herbicide we are going to use, the tile size, so we have something that you can use for a drone, but also for different kinds of machinery. We are going to choose the number of zones and assign the rates per zone, meaning different rates of herbicide. Of course, we can also change rate units, just so everybody understand it's easily moved from imperial to metric system and vice versa. And by clicking apply, the spraying map is created as we can see right now. In order to continue the process, we have to export this map. The export is easily done. Again, by choosing whether we want to, if we are using machinery, as Agrimo is John Deere connected software, we can export it to John Deere Operations Center, or if we are using a drone, we can easily, by entering our email address, we can share it by sending to email address. This can be your email address or maybe of your client, depending on what kind of business are you at the moment. Once email will arrive instantly, and what we can see here is that we have a zip folder with files for the ground machinery, but also we have a folder with files that are ready for DJI Agri's platform. The same process goes also if we want to analyze plant vigor or the lushness of vegetation, which is something that most commonly is used by our customers to understand which zones are, let's say, are requiring some additional fertilizer in the mid-season. Again, we have the distribution, also some analytics, and we can create a spraying map by utilizing a variable rate fertilizer tool that Agrimo built, and it is for you to use it. We are going to choose the appropriate tile size, so we can go, for instance, 3 by 3 meters or 10 by 10 meters, which is something most commonly used for ground machinery. Again, change between rate units, And of course, we can always set the thresholds, what we are seeing right now, per rates that we received from Agrimo AI report. Again, we can export it to our email to use it, or for instance to share it with a client if you are a drone service provider who is specializing for remote sensing in agriculture. Since we are mentioning clients, you should know that there is a way to share the whole map and to give your client or whoever a view only mode. This is very, very a useful trick, because it is going to enable anyone to access this map through a link, but that link is going to allow them to see the field, to zoom in, zoom out, see all the results, but they will not be able to change anything, which is great for purposes of transparency and easier communication, either with your colleagues or with your clients. Now we're going to see how the next steps are of uploading the spraying map to DJI Agris. So Taylor, I will ask you to maybe assist with this, because you actually sent me the video that we will see. So maybe you can explain us what we are looking at as the process is happening on our screens.
Yeah, I'll try to. Yeah, so right here, I just plugged in a flash card to the top of the remote on the T40, and it was kind of sped up there, but it simply recognizes that there's been a card inserted, looks for that RX file, that TIFF and TFW file, and oh, you're restarting it. Perfect. Okay.
Yeah, I figured out that you want to pay closer attention to that.
Yeah, sure. Yeah, so the card's inserted, you tap on that, and then it's just going to pull that up. And I notice it says short name. So in the Agrimo platform, it puts out a pretty long name with some underscores. You do have to take out those underscores and shorten the name for this file to import into the T40. This would be the TFW file and the TIFF file that you have to shorten the names on. And you actually want to select, instead of DJI as the area unit, you want to select hectare as the area unit, because Agrimo by default, I guess, exports as hectare. So you'll notice whenever the video, do what?
Hectares or acres, depending on the metric system that you chose.
Right. Whenever you select DJI, it actually comes in as MU. And so it throws everything off, which you'll see whenever the video plays here. So as soon as you just click yes, then I'm going to go into the files tab and then select prescription map. And then you see it's been imported there. The short name has been imported, 7.7 acres. And so you can't click on it from here. You have to go to, find a field that you want to actually apply and pull it up. Then you have to overlay that prescription on it. So there's my spot spraying field. And then I click on that folder up top, and there it's going to pull up all of the prescriptions. You click on the one you want, and it will overlay that on top of the map here. And there you see, this is just a spot spraying. So the green is on, the rest of it is going to be off. And so you just click start. Yeah, there you go. It says 12.28 gallons per acre on the left-hand side. I actually had that at 5 gallons per acre. And so it was an importing issue. If you select hectare on the first screen instead of DJI or MU, then it should show the correct gallons per acre. I should note, though, you do want to make sure that on the Agrimo platform, you do actually want to select the appropriate gallons per acre, because you cannot. That's the one thing you cannot edit on the DJI side. So make sure you have the appropriate gallons per acre selected before you export it from the Agrimo side. That's it. So as soon as you have everything set up on the left-hand side, just like normally, just click start.
And there you go. It's simple as that. I mean, literally the whole process is couple of clicks, you get the analysis. Once you have the report, a couple of clicks to create the map, then a couple of clicks to import it. And Taylor, thank you a lot for sharing your experience and these practical tips. But we also have one more expert that has been quiet for some time. Jim, how are you doing?
Good.
Yeah. I would like to actually hear, or for our listeners to hear a little bit more about what are you doing, where are you coming from, and let's say how the things are looking in the land down under.
Yeah, in Australia, a lot's going on. Yeah, in this slide, I work as head of agriculture for D1. So we provide a range of services. We are a DJI distributor. So we sell to public safety, survey mapping, construction, and I head up our ag side. And so really there's a lot of products that are applicable in agriculture that DJI makes. So we're excited to now have this partnership with Agremo because it really fills a gap in that workflow that we've been looking for prescription mapping. And to kind of build off what Taylor said is, yeah, not a lot of people are using prescription maps yet. But Agremo makes it really easy and has created the whole workflow that they just demonstrated right there. So now I think this is going to open up a lot of doors for people to really start saving a lot of money on their operations.
But how are you seeing, for instance, Taylor told us like how things are looking like in the United States in terms of, let's say, drones with cameras for mapping purposes, and then we have drones, let's say, for spraying. Is the situation similar in Australia, or is it a little bit different? Because I know by fact that in Australia we have huge acreage or huge areas that are people owning. And also, I know that they're quite particularly interested into finding, let's say, some specific types of weeds or something that can hurt their cattle and so on. So they're already recognizing some use cases for their needs.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think there are challenges with broad acre applications and challenges with training too. So it takes, from my math, to be competitive with the boom sprayer, about 3 drones and 3 pilots to get up there. But in terms of using camera drones, they're an essential part of the workflow. And I always emphasize that the safest way to fly the drone is to map the area that you'd like to fly, build in your obstacles to there, and build in your prescription data, and then you go out and fly the drone. It's just much safer to have all your obstacles built in before. But kind of leading into some of the trends, and I think from what Taylor's saying, this is what they're seeing in the US too. A lot of our customers are all contractors. They seem to be the first to be going through the training, purchasing the equipment, learning how to do the mapping, and then learning how to transition that mapping into the spraying drone. There's a lot of opportunities from here in Australia. We have local councils or governments that will be asking people to manage invasive weeds that are on, publicly owned land. And another trend that I see is, with broadacre, we're starting to see some contractors trying to get into broadacre applications. But for things like where you have variable topography that you can't get a boom sprayer in, a drone is a great solution that you can get in there. You can fly it manually, or you can create a map and then go in and fly the drone autonomously. But it just opens up, it's a tool that we didn't have before. And another one of the trends I wanted to mention were the custom workflows that I'm seeing. This last photo on the right is a couple customers. They fly 2 T40 drones. They built their own flatbed trailer and a cabin on it. Their team stands in the cabin. They have generators. They have their computers in the cabin so that they have their data there. The drone lands on the trailer, they swap the batteries, refill chemical, the drone flies off, they'll complete 10 hectares, move the trailer down another 10 hectares, and then they can launch from there. And they're building these trailers custom to sell to other folks who are interested in getting into drones. So the workflows people are developing on their own to accomplish broadacre are really starting to come about, which is exciting to see. And then in terms of market needs that I kind of see, Agremo is really filling that gap again. So workflows for broadacre weed mapping is definitely necessary. There's no other way to save the chemical unless you can target it specifically or save the fertilizer. Not everything needs to be fertilized. Not everything needs to be sprayed. And to build off of, again, what Taylor was saying, that the Phantom 4 multi-spec drone, yeah, you can collect the data, but unless you can analyze that and give that data to another tool to use, it doesn't mean much. So now that we have solutions like Agremo, we can collect the data, analyze it, move it into the drone. And it's great that we have this full workflow here now with Agremo and DJI. So another need, variable rate fertilizer application. Again, you don't need to fertilize everything. And then foliar feeding fertilizer. And Taylor mentioned this earlier about nitrogen loss and with rain. And this last season, Australia had a lot of rain. There were a lot of floods that y'all might have seen on the news. So all the granular fertilizer was released immediately. So you didn't get the uptake, you got the nitrogen loss, and then you get the runoff issues to deal with too. But with drones, you can start doing foliar feeding fertilizer applications. You can start controlling the release, essentially, or controlling the application of nitrogen. So when it's delivered to the plant at a more affordable rate. So I see Australia shifting more towards aerial fertilizing applications, and not releasing granular fertilizers just because it's harder to manage the release of that. So I think there will be a huge industry for aerial applications. And so this is what we're starting to see and get into here in Australia.
Hopefully we will make a great impact together and assist with all of those, let's say, market needs that you just presented.
Yeah.
So just in case somebody is from Australia present here and maybe wants to consult with Jim, or maybe to obtain Agrimo product, etc., these are his contact details. So Jim, I guess that they can reach out to you, and
Of course.
you'll assist.
Anyone, yeah.
Anyways, you have QR codes, so whether you need more information, if you are in the United States or in Australia, feel free to reach out to Agri Spray Drones or the One Store for more information or to obtain any of the Agrimo products. And last but not the least, we have a Q&A panel. There is a lot of questions, but as we are closing to 1 hour, I would like to jump immediately to some. Okay, so there is the first question. I will answer this one. It says, that's awesome using plant health for the prescription files. What about spot spraying situation where you want to spray just say the weeds and not the actual crop? So one of the benefits when you're using Agrimo is that our system is based on artificial intelligence, machine learning and computer vision. Basically, we are not basing our reports just on plant health or, let's say, vegetative indices, meaning that in addition to vegetative indices, we are also using shape, texture, height, size of the plant, discoloration, distribution in the field, presence of other vegetation, and so on. So multiple factors. That's why it is easier for us to be more precise than some solutions and some other technologies that are available. As you saw in the volunteer corn case, we managed to isolate single, but also areas with multiple volunteer corns and to spray just those because our system was able to find those. Let's see. Okay, there is a question for Jim. Are you spraying any bananas in the north near Queensland? I'm a retired banana man.
Yeah, I don't have any customers in Queensland yet that are spraying bananas, but I do think that's a great use for the T40. I have had questions from folks who are doing agroforestry, and they have to get about 30 or 40 meters in the air to do an application. So I think for a crop like bananas, that would be a great solution. So yeah, happy to chat more if they have more questions.
Yeah. Is Agrimo capable of doing stem count? Of course. We can count anything that is on the field. So I suggest that you request a demo count and try it. You will see how good it is. Let me see. Taylor, this could be also a question for you. Have you had any experience with potatoes in the United States?
Me personally, I have not applied any potato crops, but we do have several customers that are doing this right now. And potatoes are a fairly intensely managed row crop, multiple different applications, and it's a bit more higher value than what we're used to on the corn and soybean side. And so we do have a lot of folks that believe that spray drones have a very good fit in potato crops. I don't know anything on the spot application side or the variable rate side with potato crops, but I would assume that using Agrimo to generate crop health analysis reports on potato crops could be pretty beneficial as well.
Yeah, as for potatoes, I see also a question that one is addressed for me. Yeah, we can do a lot of things for potatoes. Mostly common requests are for plant vigor, canopy cover, and stand count. Whether you want to track the performance of potato plants, or if you are testing to see which variety is performing better on your field.
I see a question here from Seth that I might be able to answer.
Please go ahead.
Yeah, will swarm spraying, will you be able to have multiple drones in the field in the near future, Seth? So the answer to this question is multifold. So it depends on the regulations wherever you're operating, if you're actually able to do this legally or not. Here in the U.S., it's not quite opened up yet for multiple drones per pilot with a heavy drone. And then really it's the software side can actually handle it right now. Whenever we're doing multiple drones in the field, we actually use separate remotes just because redundancy is better whenever you have one remote per drone, but you can actually share that same field, that same prescription, the same everything, and then just segment those fields on each different remote. So yeah, you can actually do this right now. And then when it comes to logistics, though, this is the biggest challenge, because if you're one person running 3 drones in the field, then you are refilling that tank and swapping that battery every minute and a half or 2 minutes. So it's a big challenge, logistically speaking, for multiple drones with one person.
Jim, have you had any experience with Mavic 3 multispectral?
With the Mavic 3 Multi in terms of collecting data?
Yeah.
We actually just got the Mavic 3 Multispec to Australia right about the time I left for my trip to the US to be here for a month. So we've got a lot of interest in it. I think it's a great complement to the T40 for agriculture, with the mapping qualities of the Mavic 3 Enterprise and the ability to collect multispectral data if needed. So I know it's kind of the successor to the Phantom 4 RTK, but it flies longer, and I think it'll be a great complement for collecting the data needed for spraying missions.
Yeah, and one thing I'll say there is it's the first multispectral drone that actually incorporates a 20 megapixel camera with a mechanical shutter, which you have to have, like, that's a minimum requirement for stand counts. And so doing stand counts and plant health, missions is going to be capable. The M3M is going to be capable of doing that. I will say, don't get too big of a hurry to be getting one. Supply is actually pretty limited right now, coming out of DJI's side. They understand and they're working on it. We do have some in stock ourselves, but we'll be burning through that pretty quickly, I would imagine.
Yeah, while we are at that, we also have, since you mentioned that we basically have a great RGB camera, but also multispectral sensor on it. There is a question like for read mapping, what camera RGB and or multispectral, what GSD would be workable having spot spraying in mind. Basically, you can use RGB and multispectral depending on the case. If you have a specific case or specific weeds in mind, feel free to email us and we will let you know. In general, Agrimo works both with RGB and multispectral. But for instance, if we, of course, are working with RGB, maybe we have to have a little bit better GSD. So let's say there's something between 2.5 and 1.5 centimeters per pixel is going to be suitable for that analysis.
I see a question here on the questions tab from Mark.
Go ahead.
Yeah, do you help the farmers get the required FAA certifications for using drones to spray? If so, how do you do this? Well, Mark, so in the U.S., assuming you're in the U.S. here with the FAA, 137 and 44807, those are the exemptions that you have to have, along with other stuff from the FAA as well. And we've kind of got a process to get people through all of this. We have a regulation consultant who can write your manuals for you, but it is time consuming just from a waiting perspective. We do have a program that you can actually operate under as basically an applicator for Farmitude is the program. You can operate as an applicator for Farmitude for your first year while you're waiting on the FAA to process your certifications. Contact us if you want more information on this. Our website has our contact info.
Jim, did you maybe find a question suitable for you?
I'm looking through to see if there are anything.
Yeah, there is a question from Gennaro Valencia. Hello, Gennaro. How about post-spray analysis? Agrimo have capabilities to evaluate application performance? Yes. Actually, what is a recommended, let's say, set of analyses is, for instance, to do one analysis to determine the spraying zones, then you can apply a certain treatment, and then after that you can do a checkup, meaning that you should analyze it again just to see if it was successful or not.
Esteban here has a question. I think one of the most difficult things is selling the data or reports to farmers. Do you have a recipe or advise how to do this and not fail? You're right, Esteban. This is difficult. This is why, at least here in the U.S. on large scale row crop, that custom mapping services as a tool for crop scouting, that has not been very successful. Because a farmer is more willing to pay somebody to actually walk their fields, an agronomist, I should say, pay an agronomist to actually walk their fields and look closely at the leaves and then give them very specific advice. A farmer wants advice, a farmer wants management decisions just given to him. That's what he's willing to pay for, not so much just paying for the data or the reports, and then they have to figure out how to solve the problem on their own. So this is the gap you have to bridge here is you have the data, now give the management decisions to the farmer. This is what you would recommend. That's how you do that and succeed.
Okay, so this question maybe either Taylor or Jim could answer. What is your experience, if you have any, using Matrice 300 for mapping and then Agras T40 for spraying? I'm guessing that we are commenting on the combo of these two.
Yeah, I was just typing out an answer to that one, but you can definitely use the P1 and the M300 to create geoposition maps, collecting RGB data there. There are also multispectral sensors that you can hook into the M300, so it's a pretty versatile tool. I would say that if you have a lot of area to map, then maybe the M300 would be a good option. But I would suggest just trying to keep the maps to about 100 hectares or less. It seemed when importing them into the controller, it works a little bit better when they're not huge files to be working with at a time. So I would try and break them up into 50, 100 hectare plots, something like that.
Taylor, do you find maybe another question that you want to answer?
I did. One just came through here from Mark. Can this be used in forestry? Being able to differentiate between different trees in the area of greater slopes, not flat croplands. So we have a lot of forestry customers, Mark. This is a pretty big growing market segment for us. And Agrimo is going to have some tools here. But as far as creating, like you're saying here, those custom flight routes with high slopes, a lot of topography, Terra is actually what we use here, DJI Terra. DJI Terra doesn't necessarily have the agronomy features that Agrimo has, but you can actually create 3D flight routes based on a point cloud generated, from pictures taken from a mapping drone. So DJI Terra is going to be able to do this. We've got a ton of, so whenever we launch a product, we really try to support it as best we can through different tutorials and everything, a lot like Agrimo does. And so we've got tutorials on how to use Terra in forestry.
Jim, did you maybe find the question?
I did see another one. It was Powell. What camera do you recommend for weed mapping RGB versus multispectral? And in my opinion, I like to start if you can accomplish your goal with RGB data, I would start there. They're smaller data files, and if you need to move into multispectral to do that, then you could. And maybe Hovind, you could elaborate on this. But if you're doing a field and you're trying to find green on green weeds, would multispectral, when Agremo processes it and that AI, be able to differentiate better with multispectral data or with RGB data for green on green?
In my opinion, not necessarily. Depends on what kind of weed it is, how big the crop it is, are the rows closing or not. So depends on the situation. What I can tell you that probably in 8 out of 10 cases, RGB is going to be more than good enough for that. But there are some cases, for instance, when we did the volunteer corn case, we tested both RGB and multispectral. We managed to create a spraying map and analysis with both, though it was easier and let's say somewhat more accurate with multispectral, because that was a very, very tricky case. I think one of the trickiest that I have ever seen on basically that kind of testing ground.
And that's kind of why I think the Mavic 3 multispectral, I know we'll get more soon, but I think it's going to be such a great product because you have 2 drones in one. You have the option of multispectral data there if you need it, but then you can primarily use RGB data if that'll get you to the end goal that you're looking for.
Exactly. Basically, you can do most of the things with RGB with Agrimo, and that actually sets a low entry barrier for using this kind of technology. Because I don't know, until a year or two, in order to use a multispectral sensor, you had to pay some really significant prices for that technology. I have one question for me here. It says, is Agrimo capable of doing stand count reports specifically in corn? I think that we do probably more, like we are working on hundreds of thousands of acres and hectares of corn every year, specifically corn. So yes, we can, like I said, feel free to request a demo account and to try it out.
So a question here that I had for you on that was actually asked here to detect, it says late blight, I assume leaf blight on potatoes. So yeah, disease detection. What kind of, I mean, how good of imagery do you have to do that? And can Agrimo do that?
Yeah, so disease detection is something that can be done, but I would say that it is easier to detect disease damage. So question is how early you need it. If you need it like very early while it is still in terms of, let's say, small spots or something like that, it could be possible, but that will require some very expensive equipment. On the other hand, once it is like showing spots, etc., it can be done and to measure the, let's say, the area that was captured by disease in order for you to maybe plan or isolate or spray that area. So yes, but the question is at which stage and how early do you need it and what kind of equipment do you have. So it's kind of balancing between investment costs and what you're getting in return for getting that kind of information. Guys, do you see anything else? Or
I see one here. Will you see a potential for spraying drone on trial plots? Yes, we do have some cut. Well, we ourselves have done this too. Trial applications for testing out different products, or we have universities we're working with that use these drones for just that. The advantages here obviously is for small plot application, smaller drone especially, is going to be a great tool because you're not actually sending somebody out there with a backpack sprayer. And so precision is going to be much better, application rate much better. You can actually identify, pre-plan your route essentially. Yeah.
Yeah, and I can add to that Agrimo actually has another product that is specialized for field trials. So it is even easier to work with those kind of specific requests. So it is a complementary product. The spraying drones for those, as Taylor mentioned, easier to do with a drone than to carry a backpack sprayer. Jim, have you maybe seen anything that you would like to address?
Haven't seen anything else. Diego asked what parameters are measured by mapping.
Yeah,
I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not sure what is the core of that question, but we can address it later via email.
Okay.
Yeah, I think that we answered most.
Somebody asked about corn detasseling after mechanically, cutting tassels off. If that could be mapped for, I guess, efficacy to see if you got all the tassels or not.
Yeah, so we had requests to basically identify tassels on the corn, especially in the breeding fields. What I can tell you that it is again possible. So if we have a good quality map, we will be able to analyze it. I will look forward to seeing what M3M will do because of its capabilities. Because the biggest challenge was, at least for most of drone pilots, was to capture it and to stitch it and then upload it to Agrimo, but so the tassels are not moving on the wind. And that was causing a lot of issues. But again, when somebody managed to do that, to upload such map, which was of good quality, we managed to identify tassels for those purposes that I explained.
Gotcha.
Okay, I think that we can close the webinar for the time. If there is a question that we haven't answered, we will gladly answer it via email. If something is addressed to Taylor or to Jim, we will share the questions with them. I would like to thank you guys for the pleasure of joining me and participating in this webinar. It was really great seeing you again and talking about all of these topics that we have. And I would also like to thank all of our audience for attending this. Feel free to email us and to get in touch either with us in Agrimo or with Agri Spray Drones or D1 if you have anything to add.
Thanks, everybody.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
It was a pleasure. Looking forward to seeing you again on the another one.
Sure thing.
Have a great day, and for some, have a great evening. Goodbye.
Bye-bye.